Hello, Horrifying the Chains videos, and I'm back with another Spirit Halloween 2020 animatronic review, and this one is on the Plague Doctor. This guy is being sold at Spirit Halloween online only for the 2020 Halloween season for $229.99. This is definitely my second favorite prop of the year, right behind Krampus at number 1. And this was definitely my most anticipated, though. Though Krampus is my favorite, this was my most anticipated just because he is a prop I've wanted to see for a long time, a Plague Doctor, and this year he was my top priority because, as you all know, my haunt theme this year is going to be a laboratory, but the first half of the haunt is a steampunk laboratory where the other half is sci-fi, though they are on the same grounds. They were supposed to be built at different time periods. The first half is more Frankenstein steampunk-like, and Plague Doctors usually fit a steampunk aesthetic pretty well. Also, he's a Plague Doctor, which is a doctor, which I think already classifies him to work in a haunt, but his color scheme, work in a laboratory, but his color scheme definitely fits the first half of my haunt perfectly. So, I needed this guy for the haunt just because a Plague Doctor just fits my theme so well this year that I needed him, and wow, he's a great one, so let's get right into it. First off, just look at the head on this guy. This guy, I cannot tell you how massive he is, but he's definitely probably the biggest prop that I own. Towering Reaper is absolutely the tallest, but just size and everything taken into account, this guy is definitely probably the biggest prop that I own, and I own a lot of props. And I own a lot of big ones, but this guy I definitely think is the biggest. His head alone, including the beak there, is as long as Sewer Varmint, which is pretty crazy. But it looks great. He's got the hood here, he's got some white stitches up there, which I really like. His face just looks fantastic. It's got some great detail. It really does look like it's made out of fabric or latex. Not latex, but whatever they would have, the material they would have used back then. It was most likely some kind of fabric, but it definitely looks like it's made out of it, and it looks great. Though it is full hard plastic, it looks like that. Now the head is just a black sculpt head, so keep that in mind, but he doesn't have a face or anything. But wow, he looks so cool. The whole mask on him looks fantastic, and they couldn't have done a better Plague Doctor, I don't think. I've wanted a Plague Doctor for years, but I always imagined him being a 6-foot tall, basic looking Plague Doctor. This exceeds expectations of what they would do with a Plague Doctor. I didn't even expect to ever get a Plague Doctor, and they gave it to us this year, the year of the virus, which is, I don't know if that's a crazy coincidence or if they made this prop last minute after the virus became a thing. I don't know. But wow, it's just getting a Plague Doctor is crazy, but getting one this cool with this color scheme and 7 feet tall, actually over 7 feet tall would be exact, but it's crazy. His beak here, like I already mentioned, looks great, and then he's got the glass for his eyes, which are red, and those light up red as well. Moving down, he's got some more stitches. Now his clothes are just a brown cloak, and then he's got some detailing of some black scuff marks and stuff there all around. Looks great, and it's just a basic brown cloak, but it looks good for the prop, because that's typically what a Plague Doctor would wear, is a long cloak. Though they're typically black, their color scheme is typically black and white. I'm so glad they did the brown and red, because it just fits my haunt theme better with the color scheme. He's got a rope that ties around his waist here, so of course it gives him a bit more posture, and it makes his waist look thinner, makes it look more realistic, just like most props that wear a cloak have. Here you have his staff, which is absolutely massive. The staff itself, the top of the staff, is just as tall as Little Daisy and the Maestro. You can see him right there in the background. It's just as tall, which is pretty crazy. It is huge, but the skulls on it look great. I really think this guy should have been in stores, not only because of the virus. He would have been even a better seller than he already is, because he's already one of the best sellers this year, and he's online only. But I think he'd fit the cave a lot better than a prop like Angeline, because the skull staff definitely would make him blend well with the surroundings. But this staff looks really cool. It's got little holes in it for where the fog comes out, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. But the staff does have some really nice texturing and coloring on it. A lot of different colors going on here contrasting together, and the eyes on the skulls light up red. Now the rest of his staff is just plastic, but it is meant to look like wood, and they did that well. It's got some nice detailing on it, and it looks great, and then it goes all the way down here, and they connect together, of course. Now what I wanted to talk about with this is, right back here, you have this little hole, which his fog tube is supposed to hook up to, because in the video they have it coming out of his clothes, but really it has an option to come out of the skulls here, because they've got little holes in them which you can't see because they're so microscopic. Not really, they're just so well blent in, so you can't really see them too well, but that's what that has. Now the issue with the fog thing, I have a couple issues with that, but I'll get into that a little bit later on, so we'll talk about that later. But you go down to his hands here, and these look fantastic, and they're massive, of course, seeing as the massive size of this prop. I believe he's supposed to be human, but it specifies that he's 400 years old, so I don't know if he's undead or what the deal with him is. But he's got these massive hands. I would assume he's like a part human, part weird creature. I don't know. It's not very specific on it. It just says that he's a plague doctor that's been roaming the earth for 400 years. And so he's obviously not a normal human. He's either immortal, he's either undead, he's either a human hybrid creature, which is probably what I'm gonna have to guess because of his height. But yeah, he's great. And the reason I mention that is because these hands look kind of human until you get to here, with just the completely black fingers and the black fingernails. It looks great. On this hand, you can notice it even more. I love that. It's probably one of the coolest hands of any prop this year. They look so creepy, and they honestly have the best detail out of any prop's hands this year. They look fantastic. The detail on this is great, with the veins popping out, all the wrinkles and everything. It looks great, and just the black nails and black fingertips just look fantastic on him. Now my issue with the fog I will mention now. The fog tube does not come with a fog activator, which is the issue I had with Sewer Varmint, but I was able to get that replaced, but he doesn't even have a cord to hook up to a fog activator, so it's not like they forgot it in the case of Sewer Varmint, they just don't have it. So you're going to have to use a remote control with your fog machine when using this guy with fog. But my main issue is, the tube doesn't have an area to hook onto the fog machine. They just have the metal connector. However, those are usually very unreliable, as when I hooked it up to it, it just flew right off of there. So how I have the fog machine right now, and how I'm probably going to use it in the haunt, is I have it under his cloak so that it can seep out of his clothes, which is how they had it in the sneak peek video. Now I've seen someone else who bought him have it coming out of the skull staff, and it looked great, but I honestly like it more like this, coming out of his cloak, because it comes out to his sleeves, it comes out of his, the top of his cloak there. It just looks super cool. So that's how I'm going to have it in the haunt, and that's how I have it now when you see this guy demoed in just a moment. It is extremely foggy in here now, but I'm going to carry on with this review regardless. As you can see there, he doesn't do anything, of course. He doesn't move. He's a static prop. But I think his fog capability, as well as his... Well, of course, you can pretty much use a fog on any prop, the way that you can use it on him by putting the fog in his cloak. But the reason that he's fog compatible is because he comes with the tube and such, so that you can put it in the skull. But I like it like this better anyways, so yeah, that's how it is. But he is a great prop, even though he doesn't move. His appearance and everything really make up for that, but he's also got amazing audio. His audio is so creepy with the heavy breathing. I'm so happy that that's his audio. He doesn't talk or anything. It's just so terrifying. And his lights look great on him as well, and the whole fog capability really adds to it too. This is a fantastic prop, though I would say that he is overpriced at $230, since he doesn't do anything. If he had even head turning movement, I would actually say that's worth the price, just because he is one of the biggest props I think Spirit has ever sold. So I definitely think if he had just even head turning, I think it'd be worth the price. What I wish they would have done with him is had his arms slowly raised so he points at you, pretty much saying "you're next," but not actually saying it, still with the heavy breathing audio, but pretty much gesturing "you're next" or something. I think that would be really creepy. But he doesn't move, but I don't really have an issue with that, because I think he's perfectly fine as a static prop as is. I'm perfectly happy with him as a static prop. I don't think he needs movement. It would have been cool to have movement for him, but I don't think he needs it at all. He works perfectly without it. I just wish he was a bit cheaper since he doesn't move. But still, this guy's size, I think, makes his price a little bit more understandable than how we were all like shocked at it at first. I think his size makes it a bit more understandable. I still wish he was $200 instead. I think that would have been much better, but he's still a great prop and still my second favorite of the year. So I am going to rate the Plague Doctor a full 10 out of 10, because despite his price, that is my only issue with him. Other than that, what a fantastic animatronic this is. Well, he's not really an animatronic. They just refer to him as one. But what a fantastic prop this is. So he's a great prop, and I highly, highly, highly recommend him for this year, especially since we have the virus going around. I think he will definitely catch anyone's eye in a display or anything. You could probably see him from all the way down the street if you put him outside, because of how massive he is. But I think he would work great in a display, even if your haunt theme doesn't fit him. Luckily mine does, so I think he's going to be a real showstopper in my haunt. But even if your haunt doesn't fit him, I still think you should get him if you want him, because he would definitely draw the most attention out of all props this year, I think, in a yard display, simply because of the virus. People will definitely be a lot more drawn to him and find him a lot more fitting. So I hope you all enjoyed this review of the Plague Doctor. Keep howling at the moon, my werewolves.